If we needed reminding of the absurdity of British politics today, we need only muse for a second or two on the fact that a minority government at Westminster is propped up by Northern Ireland's Democratic Unionist Party that is demonstrably incapable itself of forming an executive at all. In the wake of Ireland's landslide vote against the cruelty of forcing women to travel abroad or buy pills on the internet to end their pregnancies, there is outrage that women in Northern Ireland are still denied the right to choose and access simple medical procedures for themselves. The Westminster government, headed by self-defined feminist Theresa May, insists that this discriminatory breach of human rights in Northern Ireland is a devolved issue. Yet there has been no devolved government at Stormont for 18 months. No devolved issue can be attended to until the executive is restored or power is returned to Westminster. Instead, the tail is wagging the dog and the DUP props up the government at Westminster. It is the acme of power without responsibility. The whole situation is absurd beyond reason. Goodwill hunting, the DUP are not even bothering to hide their glee in exercising their massive influence, at home, in Britain and across Europe. They warn openly that with 3 important Brexit votes coming up, May and the Conservatives cannot afford to work them on the issue of abortion. This is what the DUP are good at, making threats, creating havoc, squandering money and destroying goodwill. Some of the DUP have more in common with the alt-right of the US than the mainstream of politics in Europe. It's all that this party have done for years, and now they are doing it in Westminster too. They certainly have time on their hands to dedicate to their pastimes. They are unionists, but care for no union, in their own country, in the United Kingdom or in Europe. They defy the world, in the form of the United Nations, which has reiterated again and again that in pursuit of their religious extremism, they breach the human rights of the women of Northern Ireland. Power sharing in Northern Ireland collapsed in January 2017, in the wake of a dispute over a renewable heat incentive that the DUP administration fouled up while First Minister Arlene Foster was Environment Minister, costing £480 million, or more than £4,800 per head of population. Sinn Féin, Northern Ireland's second party, demanded that Foster should step aside as First Minister so that an independent inquiry could be launched. She refused, and the late Martin McGuinness, of Sinn Féin, resigned to force her hand. It did not. Even the urgent question of the post-Brexit Irish border will not puncture Foster's self-regard. Fragile Westminster, a new election resulted in the DUP taking 28 seats and Sinn Féin 27. The DUP and Sinn Féin are separated by the opinions of just 1,000 people in the popular vote. Power sharing in Northern Ireland, and therefore any devolved governance at all, is at stalemate. The government has no influence over this matter, because Theresa May's government is reliant on the 10 DUP MPs at Westminster. To make matters at Westminster worse, the opposition isn't even able to take much advantage of the fragility and distastefulness of the Conservative confidence and supply deal with the DUP, which famously came with a £1 billion bung. The dirtier fighters among Jeremy Corbyn's enemies in the media are only too happy to flag up his links with the IRA at every opportunity. With the DUP arguing that Sinn Féin isn't even interested in power sharing, because the longer Stormont remains paralysed the closer they come to their long-term goal of a united Ireland, Corbyn will always look compromised in all of his dealings in this matter. The Labour MP Stella Creasy is planning to have a go at intervening in the situation, with an amendment to the upcoming domestic violence bill, but it's hard to see how this will work in practice. So, while Westminster generally wants Northern Ireland to offer the same rights and guarantees to women and gays as the rest of the Union the DUP exists to maintain, the deal is likely to be blocked due to the influence of a devolved government that is in a state of suspended animation. The women of Northern Ireland are being held hostage by this ridiculous and borderline corrupt situation. So are gay people, for that matter. Northern Ireland is the only place in Britain where they can't get married. The DUP are not even bothering to hide their glee in exercising their massive influence, at home, in Britain and across Europe, as Ireland and Sinn Féin release themselves from the institutional misogyny and hypocritical homophobia of the Irish Catholic Church. The people across the border remain under the rule of Johns Calvin and Knox, two 16th-century reformists whose extreme Puritanism has long been shaken off in the respective countries of their birth, France and Scotland. The DUP are generally climate deniers and some of them are creationists. Some of them have more in common with the alt-right of the US than the mainstream of politics in Europe. The best that can be said of the entire affair is that Northern Irish women will soon, at least, have a land border to nip over when they need to terminate a pregnancy. Why they wouldn't be tempted to stay in a country that can govern itself, remain European and live in the present, rather than the distant past, it is a mystery. At Deborah Janer.